Hi everyone. One of the writing goals we have for this week is integrating citations and building evidence. So I wanted to just walk through this page with you so you know what materials are available to you here and also why I've put them here. And hopefully they can serve as a reference point to you as you begin to do your own writing. I think examples are the most effective way to teach, and so I'm going to talk you through the examples that I have here on this page. So the reason why we're doing integrating citations is because something I notice when students are writing coursework especially is that there's a temptation to just copy and paste a quote from their reading and plug it into the middle of their writing so that they've met the requirements for having a citation or linking something to the reading. However, students, when they do this, they often don't understand exactly what it is that they're copying and pasting. They can't explain it very well, or they don't at least take the time to do that in their writing. So this is an effort to get you to explain the links to the text that you're going to be using in your blog and also in your paper. Additionally, it's to help make your writing flow a lot more smoothly. Whenever you excerpt a quote from someone else's work, it's not written in your voice. It's usually in a very academic-y, jargony voice, and to do that breaks up your conversational style of writing, which many of you have and will be using for this class. So I want you to think about paraphrasing as a way to combat these tendencies and to build stronger writing. So first of all, what is paraphrasing? So it reflects the same ideas as the original quote, but its own words and writing style. Second, it's terms that are found in the original quote are often used in quotation marks, so there is still an element of, hey, this is coming from somewhere else. I am indicating that some of these words are not my own, right? But that's still better than having the whole quote from someone else's idea. And then third, paraphrased ideas should be cited, even though they are in your own words, they reflect another person's idea. And I think that's part of the reason why DU students at least are so adamant about paraphrasing or about quoting and not paraphrasing is because they think it feels like plagiarism. But so long as you have a citation at the end, which I'll show you what that looks like in a minute, of your sentence that gives credit that it's someone else's idea, you're good to go. You're still welcome to paraphrase. So there is an example here of an original quote and a poor paraphrase. Okay, so I'll just read through this original quote and poor paraphrase so you can hear what that sounds like out loud. So original quote says, "New tracks aside, the challenge is at the bare minimum to bring light and air into the underground purgatory, and beyond that, to create for millions of people a new space worthy of New York, a civic hub in the spirit of the great demolished one, more attuned to the city's aspirations and democratic ideals." And as you can see, that's from the New York Times direct quotation. So if I was to stick that in the middle of my writing, it would feel pretty out of place because I don't write like that. That's a very long sentence. There's a lot of commas going on. I tend to be a little bit more succinct, and so it would stick out very clearly. So an example of a poor paraphrase is, "Besides replacing the railroad tracks, the toughest part is to at least bring air and light into Penn Station. Millions of people in New York are deserving of a new civic hub, constructed in the same essence of one that was leveled so many years ago. Moving forward with such development ties with the city's enthusiasm for beauty and architecture." So you can see here that they're just kind of going word for word or phrase for phrase and kind of reorganizing it, or not reorganizing, but rewording it. And that's not quite enough. It still feels choppy. It still feels like it doesn't fit in their writing. So let's look at this one. So it's the same quote here. And so I'm not going to reread that, but I will read the effective paraphrase here. So one of the biggest issues facing Penn Station's revitalization is developing a brighter, airier space. It is an abysmal underground purgatory, words in quotes that they're using directly from the article. And with so many New Yorkers and tourists traveling in and out of its doors every day, it should be reconstructed to better reflect the endeavors and passions of the city. And there is a citation here. Just to note, this is not an APA citation, which is a requirement for this class, but at least they've given credit, and that's completely enough, right? It's better than quoting it, but it's still giving the same person credit. Okay, so I hope this helps illuminate what paraphrasing is. I know you guys know how to do this. It's just a matter of getting you to do it in your blog post and your writing. So I'll be looking for this in all of your assignments this quarter, that you're able to paraphrase and integrate ideas together. This also demonstrates an understanding of the goals. Although it's relatively pop culture-y from a news article, it still demonstrates understanding. So what follows down here, my research is on retail therapy. And so this is an excerpt from my research. So this first one, I would say, is a pretty good example of paraphrasing what have you. there are some quotes, but there's not a lot, right? And so we have this breakdown of real writing that demonstrates that it's okay to use quotes sometimes. I'm not saying that you can never use them. Some really appropriate times to use direct quotes are when you're defining something very specifically based on someone else's research, like I'm doing here. She talks about, or as such, retail therapy operates as a rhetorically by maintaining clear, identifiable, strategic, and therefore rhetorical functions of public and private life. So Cloud has a very specific identification of what it means to be rhetorical, and so I'm banking on that here. But I am citing her at the end of the sentence rather than giving her credence or having her interrupt my voice or make me seem like I'm relying too much on her. So I'll let you read through this. I think, again, another citation here. It's perfectly acceptable to kind of build up citations. I have Stormer and Scott as two that are saying very similar things, and it's summed up in this sentence here. And then down here, you can see how the writing style is a little bit different. So I say, according to Stormer and Scott, retail therapy serves as a purpose for organizing actions, feelings, and relationships of everyday life, etc. So you can see I'm leading my sentence with them, which again interrupts my voice. So I want to try and really work things into the ends of sentences here as much as I can. And here again, I say she says, right? I'm giving away my voice. I'm giving away my agency as a writer. So I want to try to maintain that by doing things like this up here a little bit more frequently in my writing. I also want to point out that in this particular excerpt from my writing up here, I have an excerpt from an interview that I did. So Shoshana is talking about shopping, and she's talking about how it makes her feel. And so including this particular example makes my writing richer. And so I want it to expand your conception of what equals evidence. And I think that Shoshana's story is evidence. If I were to include my own personal story, I think that that would be evidence too. And I think at least, this first example is much more interesting to read than this bottom example. So thinking about how you can weave in rich examples and paint rich pictures in your writing in order to serve as evidence and kind of again, develop your voice, develop some interest rather than the more boring or sterile writing that's happening down here. So I think the integration of citations can be really useful in a myriad of ways, and these are just a few here. I'll leave you with two things, and I think these are good things to remember. Typically, we don't begin or end a paragraph with something that is cited. We want to drive a paragraph with our topic sentence, like we talked about when we were talking about thesis statements, and so you want to use your own sentence. So this paragraph is a great example. So like other therapeutic rhetoric, retail therapy appears everywhere but remains difficult to detect. So that's my own words, that's my own thought, my own idea, and then I go on to support it with other people, and then I end with my own words here again at the end. So again, making sure that you lead and end each paragraph with your own words, not any citational data, whether it's paraphrased or otherwise, is a general best practice of academic writing. So I hope this helps. If you have questions, I am happy to answer them. Have fun paraphrasing. Thanks.